Okay, now that I'm moving up the ranks in cards, the competition is getting tougher. In this game, it was pretty darn close, and you're going to want to see what happened here on Legendary Tactics. So this is a game that is a great example of how the level of competition ramps up as you progress through the game. Now, I can't even pronounce my opponent's name, unfortunately, but this opponent actually gave me a pretty good run for my money. Now, I usually mulligan the higher cost cards, but I felt that in this case I had a decent enough kind of ramp up to those 4 strength or 4 cost units. So I decided to leave those in. I didn't have anything that was egregiously expensive, so I decided to keep those. So now fortunately I drew a great card for especially early on, the War Machine. I mean, that's worth a lot of credits over the course of the game at this point. So I'm very happy to play that, and it gives me an edge in economy against my opponent here, which should last for a good long while. And I'm getting that's my newest card there, the B17, I believe it is, and that's obviously a very expensive card, but at the same time very powerful. And I know I wasted the blitz on on this play, but I really wanted to get some units in the front line. Because I do have that Sherman in hand, and that's some card draw. So I figured it was a small cost. Now, it's interesting, the paratroopers have dropped in. I played another game against an opponent where they used the mobilize ability extremely well, keeping the paratroopers under guard while they mobilized, and just built up and built up and built up, became stronger and stronger. So I'm going to want to take out these paratroopers here. It's not that they are going to survive a long time on the front line, but you never know what buffs my opponent might play. So so there it gains in strength there a bit, and so it's a very interesting strategy though, and I can see how it could work if you have the time. It's a really neat strategy to keep some paratroopers under guard and let them gain in strength while your opponent watches on helplessly. There's not a lot that can be done unless you can take them out early, and especially if they have cards, buff cards or healing cards to keep them around longer. It's a neat strategy. My opponent didn't get them enough in this game to make a difference, but but still a bit impactful there. Hits my HQ for a couple and takes out my my Air Force, my air support. And that Matilda is quite a decent tank. Now I'm going to get my artillery down, and I'm going to see, just so I can pin that tank. I'm not sure what my opponent's intentions are with that tank, so I'm going to pin the tank and make sure that that tank is locked down at least for a turn. And it also gives me the ability to hit that tank and get some damage, maybe even take it out before it actually has a chance to do anything on my end. Now the supply drop gives a nice boost in health, unfortunately. So does keep calm and carry on. So now I'm up against a 311 and a 1-6, and they're both guards. So I can use my Havoc, and that's actually one of my favorite newish cards, where it increases the operations cost of an enemy. So if the enemy drops a big unit, you can play the Havoc to essentially make it so expensive to play that it's it limits its use. It's actually really a neat card because that's a permanent effect. Otherwise, I'm using my credits to vacate the support line. I've got other cards I want to play, including that Sherman, if I can, provided my unit survives long enough. And another air unit comes down, and my Havoc is pinned. So now here I was a bit distracted by all these units that have appeared, and these are not inconsequential. So I think I with the heavy armor and so forth, defending that Sherman, that's a really, really good thing to have. So I was torn a bit between whether to destroy the other guard unit or to make some have some impact against the Sherman. Now, or sorry, against the Matilda. Now, I probably, in retrospect, should have played the Shermans here because I had the unit in the front line, and it is pretty vulnerable right now because but the enemy Air Force was more focused on my artillery, which is fair, and they took out my stronger British unit, all the while dive bombing the Havoc there, making it essentially useless for the turn. And yeah, loading up now. I'm facing a fair number of units, so I'm not going to wait any longer. I'm going to play my Sherman to get the get the card draw while I still have an American unit in the front line. I'm going to take out the guard unit there, and small cost to myself, and play the other Sherman to make sure I've got a massive hand of cards. So now I'm finally getting a bit of an advantage in cards in hand, as you can see. However, the units that are on the board terrify me, and if there's any other repair or buff cards, this could be rough. And here you go. This is my first experience with a carpet bombing card. Wow, that is devastating. What a way to take out the enemy position. And now suddenly I'm down to one very vulnerable Sherman. So I'm going to play my B-25 Mitchell. And again, that's a great card. I'm able to take out that enemy Air Force with that. The Mitchell's great. It does, again, like any sort of bomber in that situation, does clog up the support line a little bit, but still great card. And that 3-3 U.S. infantry is always handy, but you do have to wait until you've got a unit damaged to get the most out of it, unless you're really desperate. 3-3 is decent enough, but the real value is in the repair. And look at this. The Matilda moves up and in one swoop does a bunch of damage to my HQ. Now you might be wondering, why am I not using Death from Above? Well, I'm using the Awoken Giant to get another card draw and to keep the pressure on. Now my HQ is at 7, so that's fairly vulnerable. I've got to really watch myself here, and make sure that I don't do any moves that like open up the front line to Fury, or anything like that. Any sort of opportunity that the enemy has, and they may have other cards in hand that do damage to my HQ, but 7 is still relatively safe, but you never know. So that's there's that US machine gunner card that can be quite handy in this case, where it protects your HQ on your turn, I think. So any protection you can get to your HQ is going to be handy. So, and my opponent is stewing. Now, my opponent has 4 cards to choose from now all of a sudden. So there's a bunch of options, and the economy is there. And yes, blitzes my HQ. I'm down to 4, and this is where it gets kind of vulnerable. So I think it's best if I take advantage of the Death from Above and take out that very large German tank. And again, who knows what buffs are available for that tank. That's not a good thing. And so I considered moving that unit forward, but I wasn't sure which one, whether I should play the 30th Regiment or just advance. I decided in the end to advance, but it was kind of a 50-50 on that one. But I thought, I better keep the pressure on, because you never know what cards are next. And now I suddenly seem to have the advantage. My HQ is still extremely vulnerable. there's that the machine gun. That protects against any sort of wayward effects that might come against you. And we're going to take out the unit there to make sure that we're we're safe from artillery on our HQ, which is very likely where that was headed. And now suddenly we are looking in command. But as you can see, this was still touch and go. Depending on the card that my opponent had there, could have been bad. Forced the retreat of my air unit, but it wasn't enough, and my opponent conceded. So you can see the level of competition is ramping up, but I was able to pull it out. So thanks so much for watching.